Welcome to All You Need to Know, the show where you hear about everything and learn about nothing. Here are your hosts, Quinn, Eaton, and DJ Pigg.
Welcome to All You Need to Know. My name is Quinn Eaton.
I am DJ Pigg.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very exciting episode for you today. We're not even going to have an intro. We're not even going to have a topic transition. We are just diving into this bracket, okay? This is a list of random things tournament bracket that we are breaking down today, looking at the matchups, and at the end of the episode, you will know who is victorious, who is the best random champion, okay? Now, DJ, tell the people where this list came from.
Well, it came from our episode 69, a list of 69 random things. Fantastic list.
Very good.
Very random, right?
It was incredibly random, and so we looked at it. We said, well, people aren't able to fill out a bracket. People are dying to just have something to either listen to or watch, and so that's why we are here today, both in podcast form, and we are happy to announce that this will be our first All You Need to Know web episode. So that being said, we're recording it. We're putting it up on our YouTube channel. So we are going to have a video version of the podcast. It's going to have some visuals. It's just going to be a little bit more helpful. That being said, we're going to do our very best to describe and work through the bracket with the podcast format too, just for the people that might still be walking or doing whatever they're doing at the moment. But DJ and I are in different places. A lot of this is complicated, but we are very excited because we are going to be able to work through this bracket. Now, it might help if you're watching on the video version. It's going to be helping out. You're going to see visuals. You're going to see pictures that are going to help you throughout this process. If you're listening through the podcast, if you're just sitting there and listening, it might be helpful to pull up a bracket, and that is posted on our Twitter, our Facebook, and a little bit, I think for a second it was on our Instagram, but mostly just look for our Twitter and Facebook, and you can follow along the bracket there. We're going to work through each region. We have an East, West, South, and Midwest region. We're going to work through each region one at a time, and we're also going to be talking to some of our correspondents that we have that are experts in random things. So it should be very exciting. And DJ, it's March Madness. We're going to work through a bracket. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm pumped. I couldn't be more happy to try to help the people meet their cravings of filling out a bracket and going through a bracket. It's just energetic, it's exciting, and it's a part of the year that we're kind of missing out on right now. We're trying to help the people with that.
We are definitely trying to help the people. We actually had a selection show, and we thought we recorded it. That was, 2 days ago? But both of us did not have our phones worked out at the same time, or something happened to where we both deleted the video. We lost it. We said, well, we'll just put the bracket out there. It should be fine.
Awful coincidence there.
It was a very awful coincidence, but we're working through it. That's what we always do. So like I said, there's not going to be a topic transition. There's not going to be an introduction. This is not a normal podcast format for us. However, we are going to go ahead and jump right into it. So DJ, I think that we ought to jump into the East region first. What do you say?
Fantastic. So
we have 64 random things. Now you might be saying, okay, I thought it was a list of 69 random things. Well, you're pretty good at realizing that. We have a first 5 out. So these are the five random things that did not make it into the tournament. At the first out was Johnny Knoxville. Second out, slowly pulling up to a red light and it turning green. Third out, Poachers. Fourth out, non-graded Parmesan cheese. Yes. And then the final team that was out was Rose versus Columns. So we've got those teams out of the bracket. But we had to. It's a 64-team bracket. Not all the teams are going to make it. Just like March Madness, right?
Right. Exactly right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to work through each segment of the bracket, get each region to the Elite 8 games, and then move on to the next region. So then we'll come back at the end, and we'll have the Elite 8 matchups, and then we'll break down the Final 4. And then finally, you will find out of this bracket of random things what the best random thing is, or the random champion, I guess you could say, right, DJ?
Absolutely.
So we have all of the 64 things seeded in each region, 1 to 16. So we've got 4 1 seeds, and we'll go ahead and just say those for fun. The 1 seed in the East, cone-shaped water cups.
Yep.
Then the 1 seed in the West, we have Ja Morant.
Oh,
The 1 seed in the South, the number 69. And the 1 seed in the Midwest, Kermit the Frog. So you've got a lot of really strong 1 seeds, okay? So
Yes.
keep those in mind. But first, we're going to start in the East. And we're going to start with the 1/16 matchup. We've got cone-shaped water cups versus lists. All right, what do you think here, DJ?
I'm thinking that Liss is very outmatched here. I don't think that they've got a whole lot going for them. They're going to need a lot of help. I just don't see it happening. Cone-shaped water cups are coming in real strong. They're good with all people. Fantastic on a golf course or at a basketball game.
Possibly at a park, yes.
Yeah, absolutely at a park.
The water just tastes better out of these little cone-shaped water cups. And so that is ultimately why cone-shaped water cups is going to move to the second round and beat the number 16 seed list. So we're not going to see a 16 seed over a 1 seed in the East. Moving on to the next matchup, we have the 8 seed 80s rock groups versus the 9 seed women's tennis. Now,
Yes.
women's tennis is fantastic, and I love watching the big majors, of course. But 80s rock groups has had a really strong year.
Oh, absolutely. They've had a fantastic year. They've had fantastic years for about 30 years now.
That's true.
So you really have some good, strong pieces to the 80s rock groups.
A lot of style.
The women's tennis got some really good individual players, but that's just what they are. They're individuals.
Individuals, yes. And so this is a team. This is a team, the 80s rock groups.
Yes.
And so the big hair is going to perform in a big way. And we're going to have
Yes.
the 80s rock groups move on to the second round. Now, DJ, what is the next matchup? We've got a 5 seed and a 12 seed.
Yeah, in the 5 and 12 in the East, we have got Dateline versus Books Over 100 Pages.
Right.
Now, this is a jam-packed matchup here.
For sure. Dateline, if anyone's like, I don't understand what that means. It's the hit NBC show that covers crime stories. And then, of course, Books Over 100 Pages, if you're confused by that, that's just a book that's over 100 pages.
Right,
So
exactly.
the kids' books, Cat in the Hat, that's not going to cut it. These
No.
are some stronger literature, some pieces that are over 100 pages, of course,
So,
if you were
yeah, I mean,
confused there.
Right, you've got Hemingway, and several other
Stephen
authors.
King, yes.
Stephen King's big one, yep.
Now, Dateline is great, but Books Over 100 Pages is coming in hot, and they're going to move on to the second round.
Yes.
So we've got a big upset here, a 12 seed over a 5 seed, Books Over 100 Pages moving on. Now, we've got a very high energy matchup here for the final of the top East
Yes.
region bracket. We've got Diversity as the 4 seed against the 13 seed AirPods. Now, a lot of
Right.
people might think that the 13 seed AirPods are underseeded. What would you say to them?
You know, AirPods are great. I think they are very, very popular, well liked by many. I just don't know if they really pack an emotional punch and bring the passion with them like Diversity really does.
Yes, and you think about this time of the year, a lot of people say heart over hype. And I think the AirPods might be falling in the hype category.
Absolutely.
So it looks like the heart is going to take it, and Diversity is going to move on as the 4 seed to the second round. So now we have our second round matchups here, okay?
Yes.
We've got cone-shaped water cups as the 1 seed matching up against the 8 seed 80s rock groups. So what do you think here? This is going to be tough because cone-shaped water cups have been good for so long. But could you argue that 80s rock groups have been good for longer?
You know, there's a lot of tradition that goes into 80s rock groups, a lot of tradition for a little less time that goes into cone-shaped water cups. This is another one that it's just about how they impact the people to me. Cone-shaped water cups, great, but you know what? You don't really realize a lot of the times when you're going without them.
That's true.
True. You know when you are going without some 80s rock groups and you need that in your life, and you can get that pulled up.
I agree. And so in another upset, 80s rock groups takes the crown against cone-shaped water cups, and they're moving to the Sweet 16. Now, we've got another great matchup, books over 100 pages versus diversity. Okay, so books over 100 pages coming in as the 12 seed, diversity coming in as the 4 seed. Is this Cinderella story going to end here?
You know, I think it might. Books over 100 pages, great, but diversity is where it's at on this one. There are books over 100 pages written about diversity. So diversity has the leg up. They know what's going on. I've got diversity in this one.
Diversity moves on to the Sweet 16 to match up against 80s rock groups. They are now playing against each other to get into the Elite Eight. The Elite Eight, excuse me. Who do you think wins here? Because like we said, diversity, it's something that everyone experiences, and hopefully in a good way. And then we've got 80s rock groups. That's another thing that people are always experiencing. Some people firsthand, people like you and I, if they're still performing, such as the great 80s rock band U2, you can still go see them. Right. But it's more about the legacy that they're leaving. So what do you think takes the crown here to move to the Elite Eight?
You know, this is a power-packed matchup here. Diversity really packs a hard punch. 80s rock groups always packed a hard punch.
That's true. That's true.
Diversity is a little bit more prevalent today, I would say, in today's world. But sometimes experience over newcomers.
Yes.
It just happens. So I'm going to go with 80s rock groups on this one.
80s rock groups moves on to the Elite Eight. If anyone's upset, hey, this is just how it goes. I mean, this is how the bracket worked itself out. So we have an 8 seed reaching the Elite Eight in the top of the East bracket. Let's move to the bottom of the East bracket. We've got a lot of great teams here. Let's go ahead and start with the 6 seed Morning Stretches against the 11 seed News Network Party Bias.
Oh, yes, right. Well, morning stretches are always great.
Always great.
Unless you wake up with a crick in your neck, but that happens few and far between. So morning stretches, always great. News Network Party Bias.
It gets old.
It gets old. It's had a good year. It's kind of like a Duke University. It's one of those that it worked its way into an 11 seed. But you know, you just really don't like seeing them there.
No, not at
So
all.
yeah, I've got morning stretches here.
Morning Stretches moves on to the second round. Right underneath that, we've got a very fiery matchup between the 3 seed Hand Sanitizer and the 14 seed Grated Parmesan Cheese. Now, like we said before, non-grated Parmesan cheese did not even make it into the tournament, but grated Parmesan cheese, the brother university, is representing, I guess, the Parmesan cheese in this tournament. But Hand Sanitizer is hot right now, and you're going to have to think, I mean, as great as grated Parmesan cheese is, no pun intended there, Hand Sanitizer is going to be able to probably take care of 99.9% of them.
Right. Hand Sanitizer, like you said, hot right now. They've been on a run. They are running hard.
Yes.
Grated Parmesan cheese, great. Maybe for a little snack here and there. It's something that a lot of times it's good to have in the house when you need it.
Spaghetti. Put it on spaghetti, but
yeah. Oh yeah, you could put it on spaghetti. You could put it on some bread. But yeah, no, hand sanitizer is just way too hot right now. We got hand sanitizer.
So the 3 seed Hand Sanitizer moves on to the second round. Moving down to the next part of the bracket, we have the number 7 seed Fat People on Bicycles versus the number 10 seed Ford Focus. Now, I love a good Ford Focus. I love the body type. I love the style. I love the fuel economy. However, Fat People on Bicycles is a sight.
Stuff done.
It's a sight to see, and they are getting stuff done, and they're going to get stuff done in this matchup very easily. It's going to be a lopsided 7-10 matchup. Fat People on Bicycles moves on to the second round. And here at the bottom, we've got a very strong 2 seed Barack Obama versus the 15 seed Gutters. Okay, Gutters are helpful, right?
Yeah.
But you know, it's more sophisticated than Gutters. Barack Obama.
Yes. Yeah. Gutters, not real sophisticated. They help you a little bit. Barack Obama probably helps you a little bit more.
That's exactly right. So Barack Obama is going to move on to the second round. So now we have some really good matchups between Morning Stretches and Hand Sanitizer, and then Fat People on Bicycles and Barack Obama. Let's send it to our correspondent in the East, Blain Bizzle, to see how this matchup between Morning Stretches and Hand Sanitizer is going to come out.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your co-host with the most here, Blain Bizzle, coming back for another round of random item action here on the tournament. So I'm looking over the stat sheets, and it looks like this next matchup we've got is a 6 seed Morning Stretches versus a 3 seed Hand Sanitizer. Now, I know what you're all thinking. There's nothing better than a good morning stretch. However, Hand Sanitizer just has the stats to back it up in this game. It kills 99.9% of germs. You know, that 0.1% gets to them every now and then, but I have a feeling this one's going to fit in the 99.9% bracket, whereas morning stretches only get about 85% of that drowsy feeling away. So I have a feeling the Hand Sanitizer is going to make it to the next round.
All right, so as you can see, Hand Sanitizer beats out morning stretches, as great as they may be. So DJ, let's go ahead and move on to Fat People on Bicycles versus Barack Obama. What do you think there?
You know, really, really tough game here. Going to be hard fought. You got fat people on bicycles going to work hard and breaking a sweat and really getting stuff done. Barack Obama got stuff done, but, you know, he stopped getting stuff done. About 4 years ago, he stopped getting stuff done. It's amazing that, I mean, he worked his way. They had a good year, got into the bracket as a 2 seed. But I'm going to have to go with Fat People on Bicycles.
Fat People on Bicycles gets the W there, and they move on to play Hand Sanitizer in the Sweet 16. Now, this is an absolute heavyweight matchup. You've got Hand Sanitizer and Fat People on Bicycles. Now, Hand Sanitizer, like we said, has been hot. They have been very useful and utilized their talents. However, Fat People on Bicycles is definitely going to take the cake here, and they're going to move on to the Elite Eight. So we've got the Elite Eight matchup in the East set up. We've got 80s rock groups, the 8 seed versus Fat People on Bicycles, the 7 seed. So some very high seeds getting to the Elite Eight, but it should be a very good game, and we'll come back to that here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and move on down to the West bracket, okay? We've got a lot of great teams in this these matchups as well. Let's go ahead and start with the number 1 seed in the region, Ja Morant, versus the 16 seed Pink Eye. Now, this one's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, Pink Eye really squeaked into the tournament. Probably shouldn't be there at all.
No.
They really got in. It's amazing that they weren't in the first 5 out. But, you know, it is what it is, and it goes how it goes, and Ja Morant's gonna put a whooping on him right here.
That's exactly right. No one wants Pink Eye. Everyone loves Ja Morant, so he moves on to the second round. Now we've got a weather matchup, and people have been talking whether or not which team is better. But let's go ahead and put this to rest. It's very obvious. The 8 seed Tornadoes versus the 9 seed Snow Days. Tornadoes, they're powerful, but do people like them?
No, nobody likes tornadoes for the most part. I mean, you've got people who like storms and who like tornadoes, but you can't do much with a tornado. You just kind of have to watch it and hope that it doesn't blow your house away.
Yes.
Snow days, great for the kids. They get out of school. It's good, especially a snow day is great whenever you've got sickness going around. If you've got a bug, a stomach bug or flu going around, get a couple snow days in there.
That's true.
And get those kids away from each other.
So Snow Days as the 9 seed, a little bit of an upset, not much though, moves on to match up against Ja Morant. Now, let's send it out to our correspondent, Brockman, Tyler Brockman. He is our West region correspondent to hear about this 5 seed versus the 12 seed matchup.
Thanks, guys. Looking here in the West region at the 5-12 matchup, man, we've got a great one here. You've got Wizards of Waverly Place as the 5 seed and Allergy Medication as the 12 seed. You know, Wizards of Waverly Place, they've really had a good season. You know, a lot of really solid performances from them. But I kind of look at them as a little bit of an underwhelming 5 seed. You know, yeah, you've got Selena Gomez as your star, but what kind of supporting cast do you have around them? And I look at the 12 seed there, Allergy Medication, and a ton of senior leadership from those guys. You've got Zyzal, you've got Dayquil, NyQuil, all of these great senior leaders that are a proven commodity. And I really look for the 5-12 upset. I think it's going to happen here in the West region with Allergy Medication coming up with the 5-12 upset over Wizards of Waverly Place. Back to you guys.
All right, so as you can see, over-the-counter Allergy Medication. Another 12-5 upset here, but they move on to the second round. We appreciate the insight there. there, Tyler Brockman. Thank you for helping us out. So now let's move on to the final game in this little top region of the bracket for the West. Semis that stay in the right lane, the 4 seed versus the 13 seed Collarbones. Now, Collarbones, they're critical. They're very important, but you have to love semis that stay in the right lane.
Semis that stay in the right lane are clutch. They have been clutch for years. They always seem to have those clutch drivers that just know better. They stay in the right lane. They've got a job to do, but they've got to do it safely. So yeah, I've got semis that stay in the right lane right here. Collarbones, solid team, but I don't see them getting past that.
Collarbones going to break here, and the semis that stay in the right lane are going to move on to the second round. So we've got a lot of great matchups here in the second round of this West region, the top of the bracket. Let's go ahead and talk about John Morant versus Snow Days. Now, this is a matchup you can go ahead and argue. A lot of fan support behind John Morant, but a lot of fan support behind Snow Days. But it looks to me like John Morant's going to have a pretty easy game here, and he's going to move on to the Sweet 16 and take out Snow Days.
Absolutely. John Morant, just too athletic, too skilled. Snow Days are great, but, you can only handle so much.
That's exactly right. And then the other matchup that we have, over-the-counter allergy medication versus semis that stay in the right lane. It's a 12 seed versus a 4 seed, the 4 seed being semis that stay in the right lane. There's nothing better than a semi staying in the right lane, and there's nothing worse than a semi in the left lane, let me remind you.
Right.
So think about that before you even think about how much you don't appreciate semis that stay in the right lane. And
Right.
With that in mind, semis that stay in the right lane are going to move on to the Sweet 16 to match up against John Morant. Now, this is an interesting game because it's some higher seeds. We've got a 1 seed in John Morant versus a 4 seed in semis that stay in the right lane. So basically, what was supposed to happen here in the bracket? But who takes the W here?
Between John Morant and semis that stay in the right lane, you mean?
Yes.
This is a tough one. It's a hard one to predict. John Morant, extremely skillful, powerful, like I said before. Semis that stay in the right lane, clutch, always
That's
clutch.
true.
If semis that stay in the right lane are in it at the end of the game, I promise you they'll come away with the win. However, I don't think that they can hang for 40 minutes with John Morant, so I'm taking John Morant.
You're exactly right, and John Morant moves on to the Elite 8. So let's go on and move down to the bottom of the West bracket, starting with the number 6 seed Recycling versus the 11 seed Lotion. Now, this is an interesting matchup. Both are beneficial, but it kind of comes down to what's going to help you more. Recycling's great, and I'm sure that everyone that does it likes to tell people that they do it. But I think Lotion's going to be there for more people, and more people use Lotion. And with that in mind, I think Lotion's going to move on to the second round and beat, in a little bit of an upset, the number 6 seed Recycling.
I agree. I've got It's a solid 11-6 upset there. Lotion, especially in the form of sanitizing now. It's not hand sanitizer per se, but it's in the same realm of just it is going to keep you clean.
Right.
And so right now, that's what the world needs.
Couldn't agree more. And let's go ahead and move down to the next matchup, talking about keeping yourself clean. The number 3 seed, A Nice Bowel Movement, versus the 14 seed Brick House. Or Brick Houses, excuse me. Now, you can go ahead and say, of course, because she's a brick house. But
Right.
you don't want bricks this time of the year, okay?
Mm-mm.
And I think that Nice Bowel Movements are going to easily take this game and move on to this second round. Talk about a nice bowel movement.
A nice bowel movement getting a 3 seed. Nobody wanted to play that 3 seed. Whoever got the 14 was going to be upset about that. If you want a nice brick, you have a nice bowel movement.
That's true, and that's a great point. And let's go ahead and move on to another matchup here. We've got the 7 seed Jeremy Lin versus the 10 seed Reproductive Organs. Now, an interesting matchup. Jeremy Lin, of course, Linsanity. Everyone loves Linsanity. Everyone loved the story. Reproductive organs are pretty important, though, and we're not going to get into too much detail. But I think that it's pretty obvious that reproductive organs are going to take the 10-7 upset here over Jeremy Lin.
Yes.
And here's the thing, DJ. The matchup that's underneath that, the 2 seed and the 10 seed or the 2 seed and the 15 seed, excuse me. It's a great matchup because the 15 seed cardboard, a lot of use for cardboard, utilized in a lot of different daily activities that you never really realized. But number 2 seed, goat in the water.
Go in the water.
Now, people are saying goat in the water. What does that mean?
Right.
It's a goat that's in the water.
Exactly.
And usually, the goat's not supposed to be there. So for the most part, if you witness that, you would yell, "Goat in the water!"
Yes.
And what else can you yell about goat in the water? You can yell that it's moving on to the second round, and it's going to handle cardboard very easily. So
Precisely.
we've got a lot of good matchups here. And in the bottom part of the bracket, let's see, we've got Lotion as the 11 seed matching up against the 3 seed, a nice bowel movement. Not a lot there, right?
No, not a ton there. Lotion had a good matchup in the first one. They were fortunate to get that 11 seed to be playing recycling. In the first round. They get to the round of 32 here, playing a nice bowel movement. Jam-packed 3 seed. It's just not happening.
Not happening, and a nice bowel movement is going to move on to the Sweet 16. And now we have the 10 seed Reproductive Organs versus the 2 seed Goat in the Water. Now, this one's tough. I mean, this is if you're talking about importance, if you're talking about just connectivity between the fan bases, this one's pretty evenly matched. Even with Reproductive Organs being a 10 seed, which a lot of people think that was kind of a high seed there. Goat in the Water is going to take the W here and move on.
Goat in the water.
Goat in the Water. They're going to move on to the Sweet 16 here and match up against a nice bowel movement. Now, this is tough. You've got Goat in the Water, and then you've got a nice bowel movement. I think a lot of people have been underestimating Goat in the Water for the entire tournament, mostly because they don't understand what it means. But a nice bowel movement is always going to be there for you, and they're going to move on, I think, to the Elite Eight and represent the West region with John Morant. So you've got a matchup in the Elite Eight with John Morant and a nice bowel movement. That is going to be one that's going to be tough. And we'll probably have to go to our correspondent in the West a little bit later. But like we said, we'll get back to the Elite Eight at the towards the end once we get through most of the bracket. Let's go ahead and move on to the South region. Okay, a lot of firepower in this region. Really, it's unbelievable that all these teams, all these random things are in this bracket together, and it's going to be tough to see who represents them in the Final Four. But let's go ahead and start at the top with the 1 seed. The number 69 versus the 16 seed UMBC. So UMBC gets the 16 seed again. University of Maryland, Baltimore College. A lot of people remember they're the Retrievers, and they retrieved a win over a 1 seed for the very first time in NCAA tournament history. And that you would think that would get them some more credit as far as being a random thing. They still get the 16 seed here, and is this going to be much of a matchup?
Well, no, UMBC had a good run, but it was kind of a miracle thing. It was like a miracle on ice situation. It happened one time. You playing 10 times, they might beat you 9, but not this night. And fortunately enough, the 1 seed that they got is a lot like a Virginia team getting a 1 seed in the number 69. But like I said, it's not happened more than once. I got the number 69.
Right, so the UMBC Retrievers, they have a rough matchup here, and the number 69 is going to move on. Right underneath there, we've got the 8 versus 9 matchup. 8 seed Bolo Ties versus the 9 seed The Word Bagel. So not a bagel itself, but just the word bagel, which really rolls off the tongue if you think about it.
Right, the word bagel does roll off the tongue. However, I love Bolo Ties. I don't have any, I don't own any, but I love looking at them on and off people. Bolo Ties, great, and I've got Bolo Ties.
Bolo Ties moves on, so they take the 8 seed to the second round. We've got Will Smith as the 5 seed playing Road Signs as the 12 seed. Now, let me go ahead and break this down. Road signs, very important, very critical to your travel. However, Will Smith, and it's tough to tell because they had a really good start in the early part of the season. But as they've progressed, they've dropped a couple. Gemini Man, some other movies that he's done. Not great towards the later part of his season. But if you go back and you watch Hancock, I Am Legend, Hitch, those are going to probably be able to carry him over road signs, wouldn't you say?
On top of his hip hop music. Let's not forget that he started as a rapper, correct?
I can't confirm or deny that, but you can go ahead and
he
do
either started as a rapper and then tried acting, or started as an actor and then tried rapping. Either way, I'm pretty sure it was the rapper and then actor. He had a few good hits.
He sure did.
Early on, Will Smith took a good run.
And he's going to take a run here and beat road signs and move on to the second round. And right underneath that, we've got the 4-seed Hoover Dam, so historic, versus the number 13 seed College Rolled Notebooks. This one, on paper looks like it might be close, but I think once they get into the nitty-gritty of it, Hoover Dam's going to take this one pretty easy.
Absolutely. Hoover Dam is beautiful, historical, and, College Rolled Notebooks, great for the first week of the semester. After that, you kind of don't see them again.
Yeah, and you don't use them. You're exactly right. So Hoover Dam moves on to the second round. Now let's break down some of these second round matchups. The number 69 versus Bolo Ties. We praised Bolo Ties, for being so great and for being so consistent. However, I think the number 69 is going to be able to take this one pretty handedly and move on to the Sweet 16. Now, I want you to talk about Will Smith versus Hoover Dam because there's going to be a lot of, upper right hooks, lower left hooks. And whenever I say an upper right hook, that just means you're coming down first and then you right hook. Yeah, so just kind of
here.
Yeah, you come from here and then you go under. It's an upper right hook. So what do you think about that matchup between Will Smith and Hoover Dam?
Well, two big names. These are two of the Blue Bloods for sure. Just so happens that they're meeting in the round of 32.
Yes.
Like we said, Will Smith had a good run at the beginning of the season. Road signs didn't match up with him very well. So they were able to get past it there. Hoover Dam, there's just too much tradition and too much
mass,
passion.
Too much mass, too much size, and Hoover Dam is going to move on to match up against the number 69 in the Sweet 16. Now, a lot of people had the number 69 going all the way, but Hoover Dam, I think, is going to stand up against this test, and they're going to show their true colors. And I have Hoover Dam moving on to the Elite Eight. Do you agree?
I do.
Yes, you do. And of course, whenever we say we believe that this is happening, this is what's happening. This is the Random Things bracket. And Hoover Dam beats the number 69 to move into the Elite Eight. Let's move to the bottom of the South region bracket. We've got number 6 seed Overweight Animals versus a number 11 seed Chili Breeze Up Your Shorts. Now, this is a hell of a matchup. A Chili Breeze Up Your Shorts, I'll go ahead and say, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Right. But Overweight Animals are always good.
Right. And you said it, you hit it right in the nose. Chili Breeze Up Your Shorts, it's just inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get. You always know what you're getting with Overweight Animals.
Exactly right. So Overweight Animals, the 6 seed, moves on to the second round. And then this is a big matchup. A lot of people think that the Sun at a 3 seed deserved a higher seed, probably a 2 seed or a 1 seed. But they landed a 3 seed, and they're matched up against number 14 Construction Workers. You match up the Sun against Construction Workers, it's pretty obvious. You can have all of the cooling towels and big brimmed hats you want, but the Sun is going to beat Construction Workers and move on to the second round.
Yes.
So now we've got a matchup between the 7 seed Vine, which is a social media or a former social media app where you get to share 7-second videos of yourself. And then they are matched up against the number 10 seed Candles. Who wins this matchup?
Vine had a good run. Unfortunately, Vine just the run's got to stop somewhere. Not every Cinderella story makes it to the bowl.
That's true.
So I've got Candles here in a 10-7 upset over Vine.
Yeah, the clock's going to strike midnight on Vine's Cinderella story, even though they hadn't won a game in the tournament. And the Candles are going to move on to the second round. And now we've got the strong 2 seed Sloppy Joes versus the number 15 seed Ladders. Now, whenever I say Sloppy Joe, that's not the nickname for my dad. My dad's name's Joe, and sometimes he gets a little sloppy. We're talking about the classic manwich, if you will, just 2 buns with some sloppy meat in the middle. And they're the 2 seed. And Ladders are great. They get you to high places. But I think Sloppy Joes are going to be able to carry you a little bit further, and they're going to move on to the second round.
Yes.
All right.
Ladders are not getting to high places by themselves.
No, exactly right. So now we've got the South region second round matchups put together down towards the bottom. We've got overweight animals and the sun. We're not going to be able to handle that. We're going to send it out to our correspondent in the South region of the bracket, Isaac Bayer.
Hey, thanks guys for the intro there. So we're doing overweight animals versus the sun. When it comes down to it, you got to think about it, you got to think about what's most valuable, okay? You have the sun, which provides life to all things, keeps us and the planet alive. And on the other hand, you've got animals whose lifespans are probably not going to be as long as the average lifespan of that animal because of their morbid obesity. So the answer to me is quite clear. Overweight animals beats out the sun every time. I mean, you're never gonna get enough enjoyment out of pictures of fat animals. But you know what? No one's ever looking at the sun and laughing. So that's the hot take for this matchup.
All right, so, I mean, that was tough. The sun, very powerful, but apparently overweight animals has enough in the tank to get past them, sneak past them into the Sweet 16. So now we move down to candles versus sloppy joes. Now, this is something where if you've cooked sloppy joes before, you might need a candle. So it's a really good matchup. Who do you think comes out on top here?
Candles maybe you put out after you eat sloppy joes.
Mm-hmm.
But the sloppy joes are always going to come first.
That's exactly right.
And that's how I look at it with this matchup.
So sloppy joes move on to the Sweet 16. So now we have our Sweet 16 matchups in the South region. The number 69, the 1 seed, versus the number 4 seed, Hoover Dam. Now this one is tight. The number 69, a lot of momentum, but Hoover Dam has just been so consistent. A lot of fans, a lot of people supporting them, and they're of course supporting our water system and our electricity. So Hoover Dam, you have to think, moves on to the Elite Eight.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's too much size. They've got too much size. And the number 69 is just not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, too much power as well. And so now we move down to the matchup in the Sweet 16. The 6 seed, overweight animals, coming off a big upset against the Sun, versus the number 2 seed, sloppy joes. What do you have here?
Overweight animals having a size advantage on sloppy joes here, and maybe your animals are overweight because they got sloppy joes.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that overweight animals, they've got too much power. They're too cute, and they're too lovable, and they're moving on.
You are so right, and so incredibly right. The overweight animals easily moving on. As I know that this is a 6 versus 2, but it seems the other way around. And overweight animals moves to the Elite Eight and matches up against Hoover Dam in the Elite Eight for the South region of the bracket. So we'll come back to that in just a second. But let's move to that last part of our bracket, the Midwest. Now this one, like we said, the remaining 1 seed, Kermit the Frog. He's got enough firepower to make it a long way, I think. But then you look down at the 2 seed, Harriet Tubman, and talk about a figure, right? So let's go ahead and start at the top, all right? Let's start with the Kermit the Frog 1 seed versus the color beige, the 16 seed.
I would like to stop you just for a second. When you talk about Harriet Tubman's figure, it makes me a little uncomfortable.
Oh, well, let me go ahead and clear that up. Historical figure, okay? I'm talking as a historical figure, and I apologize for that misunderstanding. But go ahead and break down for me the Kermit the Frog 1 seed versus the color beige 16 seed. I like the color beige, but why is Kermit the Frog going to move on here?
Well, Kermit's there's too much power behind Kermit. They are going to physically impose their will on the color beige, and the color beige is just quite boring, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
Kermit, never boring. Moving on.
Moving on to the second round. Now we've got a pretty good matchup here. The 8 seed Leaf Blowers with the 9 seed Summer of 2016. A lot of people look back fondly on the Summer of 2016. Are the Leaf Blowers going to be able to do anything about that?
Leaf blowers have been great for a while. Well, I should say good, not great.
That's true.
Summer of 16, always going to be great. forever in our memories. Fantastic. So, Summer 16 is getting by on this.
Right. Yeah. So this matchup is going to be all Summer 16, and they're going to move on to the second round. So now we've got the 5 seed Keith Urban versus the 12 seed sub 10-minute mile times. Now, you look at sub 10-minute mile times. That's a pretty good accomplishment for most people, but you have to think that that's just not a good matchup for sub 10-minute mile times. It seems like Keith Urban, as small as he is, not a lot of size, but he's got a lot of heart. So I see Keith Urban pretty easily moving on to the second round here, right?
Yeah, like you said, not a whole lot of size, but got a lot of heart. And sub 10-minute miles, they're good, but you can do without them, right?
That's exactly right. So let's move on to the last matchup we have in this part of the bracket. Schrock, which is the mixture of Shrek and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So not necessarily if they had a kid, because I don't know how that would work, but it's a combination of them nonetheless. So you've got Schrock as the 4 seed, a pretty strong 4 seed, versus the 13 seed Toolboxes. This one's tough.
It is. Toolboxes, are heavy. They pack a strong punch. A lot of physicality to them. But I don't know if it gets more physical than the Schrock.
Schrock is just going to overwhelm them with his tenacity and his muscular figure. So I think that it's going to be a pretty easy matchup for Schrock, and he's going to move on.
And his donkey.
And his donkey. Yes, exactly right. So Schrock is going to move on to the second round. So now we have our second round matchups here for this part of the bracket. Kermit the Frog, the 1 seed, against Summer of 2016, the 9 seed.
Are you wanting me to go?
You want me to go?
I thought you would take this one.
I'll take it, all right? Kermit the Frog, it ain't easy being green, but it is easy being pretty damn good. And Kermit the Frog's going to take over Summer of 2016. As great as Summer of 2016 seems to be, I guess I could go ahead and say, Kermit the Frog's going to move on to the Sweet 16. Now, this is an interesting matchup. It's almost like David versus Goliath here. You've got the 5 seed Keith Urban versus the 4 seed Schrock. Tell me about that.
We talk about Schrock's size and his donkey.
And his donkey.
And I just don't think that Keith Urban is matching up with that kind of size. He shreds on the guitar, but he's not going to be shred if he can't see around.
Yeah, he's going to be shredded by Schrock at 5'8". Keith Urban, I think he's 5'8". I'm not entirely sure. That's a wild guess. But Schrock is going to move on here. And so Schrock versus Kermit the Frog in the Sweet 16. Now, this is tough because it's an all green matchup, so it's gonna be hard to differentiate between the two. But you have to think that Kermit the Frog has enough historical value as well as a strong fan base. He's gonna move on past Schrock.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog is just packing too much punch. I think I've said packing a lot of punch about 12 times, but it is what it is. Kermit the Frog is just too much of a figure.
That's exactly right.
He's way too much of a figure, and he's going to outlast. And his, he might get a little help from the refs. Honestly,
that's
just
exactly
because
right.
of who
Yeah.
he is.
And Schrock had a good run, but Kermit the Frog is going to move on to the Elite Eight. Let's move on to the last little section of the bracket in the Midwest that we have to go through. The first matchup that we have is the 6 seed R2D2 versus the 11 seed Nice Water. Now, Nice Water, if anyone's confused, it's the Walgreens brand of bottled water. You can get it in.
Nice.
It's very nice. It's purified or spring, so you have options. But I don't know about this matchup. You have to think that R2D2, his mobility is a little bit limited. Nice Water might be able to serve more people, at least at this time. So it looks to me like Nice Water is going to move on in this matchup against R2D2. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
All right. And the Cha-Cha Slide is the 3 seed in this region, and they're matching up against Gas Station Shrimp. Let's send it out to our correspondent in the Midwest, Scooter, to see how this will go.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate y'all letting me cover the Midwest region. This first round matchup between number 3 Cha-Cha Slide and Gas Station Shrimp is going to be an exciting one. However, I'll probably be going with the lower seed here and going with Cha-Cha Slide because their strength will just be overwhelming Gas Station Shrimp. I don't think Gas Station Shrimp's going to have enough gas to make it to the end of the game.
All right, so It was tight, it seems like, but Cha Cha Slide moves on to the second round. They take out Gas Station Shrimp. We appreciate your input, Scooter, our correspondent for the Midwest. Let's move on to the 7-seed Bees versus the 10-seed Salt. And let's just be clear, this is what you put on food, not the Angelina Jolie movie that was not very critically acclaimed.
Right.
But Bees?
Bees?
Bees!
Bees?
Bees move on to the second round pretty easily. Sorry,
Yes,
Salt.
they do.
And Harriet Tubman at the 2-seed versus the 15-seed Earwax. A lot of people are saying Earwax does not belong here. What is Earwax doing here? You have to think Harriet Tubman moves on here, right?
Yeah, Harriet Tubman, too much of a historical figure, and there's just too much that comes with Harriet Tubman. And
She's got a lot of power.
Oh,
a lot of
my
power.
gosh, she comes with a lot of power.
She's got great lats, I'll say that.
Oh, absolutely. And have you seen pictures of her calves?
Yes, I have.
They're
Wow.
amazing.
So with that being said, Harriet Tubman moves on to the second round. So now in our second round matchups, we have Nice Water as the 11 seed. They beat the 6 seed versus the Cha Cha Slide. Everyone loves the Cha Cha Slide, okay? So I'm trying to think like, okay, Nice Water is great, but in order to lift the people's spirits, and I think more people know about the Cha Cha Slide than people know about Nice Water, and that's why the Cha Cha Slide is going to move to the Sweet 16. Now,
All you can do is dance when you're down.
that's exactly right. And it looks like they're going to keep on dancing, and the Cha Cha Slide moves on to the Sweet 16. We've got the 7-seed Bees versus the 2-seed Harriet Tubman. It's a tough matchup, and all we can say is we hope that she's not allergic. But
Right.
what do you see happening here?
You know, bees are feisty, but they throw their punch and they kind of lay down and die. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Harriet Tubman can take more than one punch, and I think she'll take that first one right on the cheek, and then she'll turn the other cheek and throw a backhand.
Yeah, that's exactly right. She might turn the cheek a couple times. We know that she is just tenacious. So Harriet Tubman moves on and takes out Bees. So now we have our Sweet 16 matchups here. We have Cha Cha Slide versus Harriet Tubman. Now, again, heavyweights, right? But you have to think that Harriet Tubman is going to keep the train a-moving, okay? And they're going to chug along to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, the Cha Cha Slide had a couple of easier games, in my opinion, in the first 2 rounds. Kind of lucked out with the draw that they got from the committee. But yeah, no, in that third round, it's not cutting it. The Sweet 16 is where their story ends.
Slide to the left.
Woo!
Slide to the right. Get out of the tournament. Harriet Tubman moves on to the Elite Eight. So now we have our Elite Eight matchups. This is very exciting. It's taken us a little bit to get through this bracket, but there is a lot to each and every one of these matchups. So we're going to start up at the top of the bracket, the East and the South matchups. Let's go ahead and send it to our East correspondent, Blain Bizzle, to see how the matchup between 80s rock groups and fat people on bicycles turns out.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Elite Eight of the random list tournament we have going here. I hope you all are staying inside and staying safe during this time, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying the tournament so far. So now we are down to the Elite Eight, and I've talked with a lot of professionals about this. I mean, it's going to be a close one. We expected to see this matchup. We figured it would be coming later in the tournament, and I'm glad we're finally going to get to see this. So it is the number 8 seed, 80s rock groups, versus a 7 seed, Fat People on Bicycles. Fat People on Bicycles has an outstanding record, millions of followers on YouTube watching those videos, several different hashtags going along with that. And then the 80s rock group, it has support, but it's from an older generation, so I feel like the new generation as well as the old generation have the Fat People on Bicycles going on to the next round. So my support is for the Fat People on Bicycles going into the Final Four after the Elite Eight and seeing them really turn this into a good championship.
All right, I have to say that I saw that one coming. Fat People on Bicycles to represent the East region in the Final Four, and I think that this is the Cinderella story of the tournament as a 7 seed making the Final Four. So I think everyone's happy to see them there. And let's go ahead and move out to this South region. Let's talk to our correspondent Isaac Bayer in the South region to see how this matchup between Hoover Dam and Overweight Animals shakes out.
All right, for the second topic here. We've got the same overweight animals versus the Hoover Dam. Now, if you thought that the Sun versus overweight animals was a hot take, well, guess what? You're in for an equally hot take, because I'm going to use the same line of reasoning. You got to think, oh, fat animals that are going to die soon. People aren't taking care of their animals, versus a large hydroelectric dam that provides power and jobs to an entire region. Again, when it comes down to it, who's looking at the Hoover Dam and saying, wow, hey guys, look at this. Let me take a video. Let me take a picture of the Hoover Dam, and they all have a good laugh. No one does that. But when you see a cat that's maybe 2 or 3 times the size of a regular cat, hey, case closed. Overweight animals beats out Hoover Dam to the next round.
There you have it. It seems like there's another Cinderella story and an underlying theme, because overweight animals, as the 6th seed, takes out Hoover Dam. They seem like they couldn't be beaten, but overweight animals moves on to the Final Four to represent the South. What do you think about that, DJ?
Well, I think that overweight animals are the only ones who can really match up with Hoover Dam's size.
That's true.
And you match up with Hoover Dam's size, I think overweight animal, the guard play is a little better. So I think that's why they took that one.
And let me ask you a question that probably ended up deciding this matchup. Can you snuggle with Hoover Dam?
No.
No, but can you snuggle with overweight animals?
God, yes.
That's exactly right. So overweight animals is representing the South region in the Final Four. Let's move down to the bottom 2 brackets. We've got the West and the Midwest. First off, a matchup between the 1 seed John Morant and the 3 seed, a nice bowel movement. Tyler Brockman is there to help us figure out who's going to take this one home.
Thanks, guys. Well, here we are, the Elite Eight, and man, talk about a great matchup between the 1 seed John Morant, everybody's clear pick to make a deep run in the tournament, and the 3 seed, a nice bowel movement. Obviously, if you look at the way the tournament has unfolded, John Morant has had quite a few easy games, easy matchups leading up to this Elite Eight matchup. You know, he took out Snow Days in a pretty lopsided matchup, and he was able to best the 4 seed semis that stay in the right lane in the Sweet 16. Now, you look at both of those matchups and you think, is John Morant ready for an Elite Eight matchup against a nice bowel movement? And I don't think he is, and here's why. You think about a nice bowel movement, not only has it been a very difficult road for them to get there, they're tested. They are well prepared for this moment, and I think that as you guys know, a nice bowel movement is tough to beat. It's really something that just comes in the clutch when you need it, and I think in this case, the West Regional Championship, I think you're going to see a nice bowel movement come in clutch late in the game and get the W against John Morant. In a bit of an upset, mind you, but I think a nice bowel movement moves on to the Final Four in the bracket of random things. Thanks, guys.
Any surprises there, DJ, with the outcome of that game?
You know, not at all, I don't think. John Morant, fantastic. Nice bowel movement. Like you said before, always there for you.
Even
anytime,
better.
any day.
Even better. So John Morant's reign ends here, and a nice bowel movement is going to represent the West random thing bracket. Let's move to the Midwest. We've got a large and in-charge matchup between Kermit the Frog, the 1 seed, and the 2 seed Harriet Tubman. Now, this region has kind of shaked out how it was supposed to, but let's go to our correspondent in the Midwest, Scooter, to see who wins the game.
All right, guys, we're down here to the Elite Eight out of the Midwest region between 2 great programs, number 1, Kermit the Frog, and number 2, Harriet Tubman. It's been exciting. They've had some exciting games along the way here. It's going to be a great matchup, and I can't wait to see this one. However, my pick will be Harriet Tubman due to the history of the program. I think that they've been here and done that before, and they'll be the ones that advance to the Final Four.
There you have it. Harriet Tubman moves on to represent the Midwest in the Final Four. Okay, so this is a big time matchup. Kermit the Frog goes down as the 1 seed, which ends any hope for any of the 1 seeds making the Final Four. Was he the favorite 1 seed to make it to the Final Four, would you say?
I would have to say so. John Morant in the West was a good one, but I would say the favorite 1 seed to make it into the Final Four had to have been Kermit.
That's exactly right. And Harriet Tubman pulls a little bit of an upset there, and she makes it into the Final Four. So let's look at this Final Four, okay? We have fat people on bicycles versus a nice bowel movement. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have overweight animals versus Harriet Tubman. Now, these, a lot of people, I don't know if they chose this as their Final Four. I don't know how many perfect brackets we're going to have. But let's go ahead and dive into this fat people on bicycles versus a nice bowel movement matchup. Now, fat people on bicycles, they were a 7 seed, a nice bowel movement a 3 seed. So if you're going by seeds, it seems like a nice bowel movement has a little bit of leverage on fat people on bicycles. But I don't know if fat people on bicycles is hot. Is their run going to continue into the championship?
I think that it might, because here's what's going to happen is fat people on bicycles is going to take a nice bowel movement to the Super Bowl, which is not the tournament that we're looking at here. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a fat person on a bike is really going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And they have been getting it done, and they're moving on to the national championship game here.
Fat people on bicycles, the Cinderella story continues, and they pedal on to the championship game. On the other side, we have overweight animals versus Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman has been very steady through this entire tournament, taking down a lot of good teams. But you could go ahead and say that overweight animals has had the hardest route to the national championship. And it seems like this theme's going to continue. I mean, Harriet Tubman, an absolute outstanding historical figure. But overweight animals, I think they're going to continue on, and they're going to match up against fat people on bicycles in the Random Things Championship.
Unbelievable.
It's an unbelievable run. So think about this. Think how crazy this is. We have a 6 seed overweight animals matching up against a 7 seed fat people on bicycles. That is unprecedented, I would go ahead and say. But let's go ahead and talk about this, because one team can come out victorious as the best random thing. Back in the day when we did episode 69, a list of 69 random things, it was in no particular order. But this is establishing an order, and let's see who wins the championship. DJ, what do you think?
Overweight animals are fantastic. You can cuddle with them, and they're super loving. But you know what? They can get a little hard to take care of, and sometimes they're a little high maintenance. So I think that the situation that we're running into is we're running into a team with in fat people on bicycles that it's really they're really gonna come in and do work.
That's true. And so is there going to be a lot of stamina in this national championship? I don't think so.
I think whoever jumps out to the quick lead is going to get it.
But you have to think, for the fat people on bicycles to be pedaling for this long, they might be able to outlast overweight animals, as cute as they are.
That's true.
So it seems to me that fat people on bicycles is going to be the Random Things Tournament champion. Do you agree? Can you confirm that fat people on bicycles wins the tournament?
I can. And here is your one shining moment.
There it is. Fat people on bicycles wins the entire tournament. They come out victorious on top of all of these fantastic random things. And man, oh man, it was very exciting. And it's almost, I wish we could go through another bracket of random things.
I do too, but you know what? I got to pee just a little bit.
Right. So we're going to end it there. We hope you enjoyed it. If you were following along with your bracket, seeing what games you got correct, we wish you the best of luck, and please let us know how you did, because I this was fun for DJ and I, but I hope that it was just as fun for you, and kind of filling that void of March Madness. And one last thing, a lot of people watching it on the video, audio, of course, on the podcast, no one's going to notice, but people on the video might notice that I don't have facial hair. And I just kind of forgot to mention that. I didn't think I'd be seeing anyone for quite some time, so I shaved it into goatee, then a Fu Manchu, then a mustache, and then I just kind of shaved it all off. So that's why I look like this. And I'm very excited to get back to the facial hair life, because this is awful. I look like I'm selling popsicles out of the back of a truck.
Right, which is a little morbid, but I was going to say, you've already got the 5 o'clock shadow coming back, so it already looks good.
That's true.
Hey, and here's another thing that I'll mention. When you did shave, you sent us pictures, the group, you sent us pictures of the different, you had like a normal mustache and a Fu Manchu and a goatee. The goatee, no go. All right, the Fu Manchu, kind of nice, a
Possible.
little humorous. All right, the mustache I kind of like. I would like to see the mustache make a comeback.
Okay, well, we'll see if maybe next year Mustache will be in the Random Things tournament if this becomes a regular tradition. But DJ, had a great time, and we want to go ahead and thank all of those correspondents that helped us out: Blain Bizzle, Tyler Brockman, Isaac Bayer, and Scooter himself, my dad. So we hope you enjoyed it. This has been our episode of List of Random Things Tournament Bracket, a little bit of a March Madness for you, and we hope you enjoyed it. My name is Quinn Eaton.
I'm DJ Pigg.
And you guys, take it easy.
This has been All You Need to Know. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, message us on Twitter or Facebook, or send us an email at allyouneedthenumber2know00@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and tune in every Wednesday because here at AYN2K, we've got you covered.